Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on April 21st, 2022 at approximately 5:04 a.m. PST. It's been a long time coming, but I finally figured out something intriguing. When I was younger, okay, I used to hide from the world for a lot of reasons, or more to the point, I thought I was hiding from the world. Now, I return to this world for one primary reason, and that reason is simply to pass on a message to everyone in existence that working together, we can make this a better world for everyone, for almost everyone. Now, this is not going to be an easy task, and it's certainly not something that can be done by one individual, myself included. However, it has to start somewhere. Now, I discovered some intriguing issues about myself, and you may well have discovered the same things. Okay, so we're going to go through that pretty quick here. I was raised to believe, well, the way that I was raised was to believe that people are, that generally speaking, people are decent people. Now, the behavior that the world has been going down is a real black path. Okay, now, much as I did grow up in the church, and I'll use the term grow up a little loosely, okay, there's a lot of things about the church that I still agree with. However, the church itself, in my opinion, has gotten so far off the beaten path, and I do not like that word, has arrived at such a disconnected path from what the church was originally supposed to be, okay, that you really have to take a look inside yourself. Now, I only follow 3 laws. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. It turns out that I haven't been doing the first one all that well. Okay. Now, I was taught, because of the way that I grew up, okay, large family, small town, military town, right smack in the middle of what I was led to believe was the heart of the Bible Belt in BC. Specifically speaking, I grew up in Comox. Okay, now I never did fit in properly for a lot of reasons. My father used to tell me, until his deathbed anyway, my father told me that, and I am talking my corporeal father, who you would call your dad, maybe, but he told me to keep my abilities and my outlook quiet. Don't show other people what you do. Well, the sad reality of it was I didn't pay much attention to it. And as I had the misfortune of having to tell a number of people just recently, I never learned how to be selfish. Okay, I never took dad's teachings and learned how to take care of me first. And it took my actually getting mad, okay, to get it through my head that that's the only way I was going to get ahead. Not by being selfish, not by not helping people. For pity's sake, don't take that message. Helping people is the only way that this world is going to change its direction. And it starts with you. But you have to take a look in here. Now, the flaw I discovered in myself was this. Every time somebody asked for help, okay, I would turn around and reach out to help, which is a good thing. Until you start putting yourself behind the 8 ball, at which point it becomes a problem. Because if you don't take care of yourself first, you're not going to be in a position to take care of others. You're going to become a burden to other people. Now, Mom and Dad tried to teach me this, okay, but unfortunately I never learned until just in the last couple of months, okay, that you have to stay, first and foremost, you've got to stay true to your own beliefs. And I will qualify that. That only applies if you're following those 3 karmic laws, and they are all equally important. Just as every leg in a 3-legged chair is equally important. Picture what happens if one of those legs is weak. Okay. Picture what happens if one of those chairs, if one of those legs is too short, and see how stable it all of a sudden gets. The same thing applies. Now, when you're looking at that structure, okay, what I found was this. Many people I could reach out and help and they just took it as is. But people have been trained not to trust generosity. They have been trained not to trust assistance. We have been taught right from the get go. Okay, and I cannot blame well, I could. I will not blame your parents. I will not blame the spiritual guides that are out there because they were trained exactly the same way. Okay, what I did not get the message on is if I don't take care of me, I'm going to run back into the same bond. Into the same bind, at which point I become a burden to other people. Now, I made the mistake of putting people that portrayed themselves as having everything together, as saying they did. And as it turns out, that is very off. That is very off kilter. Okay, but it took my getting mad. Okay, and I didn't scream at anybody, I didn't yell at anybody, I didn't break any laws. I simply wrote a letter that was very terse and cut off a lot of misconceptions. And I've had a lot of time. One of the things I said in the letter was very simple. This letter itself may be a mistake. I've made a lot of miscalculations over the years. But what the letter basically did was it said, okay, cut everybody off now. When somebody is reaching out and has a legitimate problem and is working towards benefit, towards getting their life on track, many times they will run into problems. Okay, but when they start relying on you to solve all of their problems, that's where it becomes a friend. That's where you get a red flag. Now, of course, the mistake I made was I let certain people actually do that. Okay, and I took it on as an obligation, as my responsibility. Because they were in trouble, my responsibility was to reach out and help. And I am still absolutely dedicated to the idea of helping people, which is why I say if you've got a question in any field, I've been working publicly in the consulting field since I was 10 years old. This means for the last 48 years, like almost 49, I've been working in a field where, people that had relationship issues, business issues, missing time, UFO, alien related issues, spiritual issues, it didn't matter. Even health issues, it didn't matter. For some reason, I was gifted with an insight into it. Now, when I mentioned I felt completely out of place, the problem was that I thought I was out of place as in people would not accept me. Okay, in all fairness, that was actually, as far as I recall, that was how it was portrayed to me. You may have the same problem. People won't accept you the way you are. Well, the reality is, if you do not accept yourself the way you are, you're certainly not going to be accepted by other people. Now, a few years back, quite frankly, December 28th of 2018, I had what I got told was a minor stroke. I figure I couldn't speak, I couldn't walk. Okay, that's a pretty severe one. My left arm has not been working properly. It's finally getting up, but it's getting back together. Because I came to the conclusion I was not going to give up. Now, a few months back, I was talking to another individual that had had a severe stroke, a couple of years before I did. And they made a comment that they had reached a point where they simply had to accept they were not going to heal anymore. And that right there was one thing that told me right there, I am not buying into that. Okay. I'm not buying into this idea that I cannot rebuild. Okay. Net result, I redoubled my efforts. Okay. It's like I am not going to give into this idea that I cannot work with my left hand. Now, I used to write very quickly, very easily with my left hand. But I'd essentially given up on it, going, I'll have to work around it. And when that individual made that comment, I'm like, no, I am not giving up. And sometimes you'll find this. Perhaps you've run into a problem where you've gone, I just am not getting it. I'm not going to get any better. Okay, maybe you've been told all your life that you're as good as you're going to get. You're not going to heal. Now, there are limitations. Okay, there absolutely are. One of the limitations, and I suspect very strongly it's self-imposed, but I'm not giving up on it, is I can heal almost anything, okay, in my own body. My eyes, I've neglected really badly, okay, and that result, I had to get new glasses. Okay, but I am bound to determine that I am going to make my eyes better. Now, yes, I still keep the glasses. I did get a new set for driving. Take my word for it, it was getting really bad. These I keep because I can't quite read the clock on my phone yet, on my computer here. But I was given this concept that, you're not going to get any better. And I'm looking at this going, that cannot be the way this ends. Or more to the point, it could be. I do not desire it to be that way. So I went, fine. That's where it is right now. How it got here is not the real problem. How you got to where you are is not the real problem. But when you take a look at your house and your home as your corporeal body, and you take a look at your own physical body at this, okay, you take a look at that as your cerebral cortex. Everything in your house and home relies on the cerebral cortex. Everything in your physical body relies on the cerebral cortex to run it. Okay, so the first place we have to start, the most effective place in my eyes to start is heal here. Well, when I got told a couple of things, it dawned on me that I have to put myself and my goals as a critical priority. Now, frankly, I was expecting to be where it came to finances, that's the brainchild, okay, of your house and your home. And let us understand the difference before I go any further. Your house, okay, is the physical thing. This physical thing is what the finances, a simple bartering tool, not an evil entity, not the root of any evil thing. The finances are simply a bartering system to get your physical dwelling, whether you're renting it or you own it, or you, so to speak, own it. Now, I'll guarantee you don't own your property and I don't guarantee much, but if you are still paying land taxes, okay, even if your house is completely paid off, if you are still paying land taxes, you're renting your property. You can call it ownership, because let's face it, when I bring somebody to my place, even though I rent, when I bring somebody to my place, I say, welcome to my home. I let you through the door. You're more than welcome to make yourself at home. Just don't don't steal anything. Food, knock yourself out. If it's in my house and you're hungry, if I've got coffee and you'd like a drink, help yourself. Okay. But there are limits. Now, the reality is, when you take a look at that, okay, I open the door and I'll let somebody in. I don't leave very often if I can get away with it. But came to the understanding that striving to help people that just did not desire to help themselves was causing a problem. Now, I was expecting to get my finances in order by fall, because of the amount of times I put my stuff on hold in order to help other people. Well, that eventuality came to a close. As a matter of fact, let me just see something here, because I want to make sure I give you the right information. If I go that file right there. Okay, we got 57, we've got 11. Okay, So here's the deal. I was planning, what I was aiming for was very simple. I was aiming for getting my finances in order. And what I mean by in order, and this does not make me better than anybody, because I'll guarantee one other little detail. No matter how much money you have, my assessment is you probably are not as well off as you like to think. Now, I took a look at the way people were carrying themselves. Now, like I said, before I get to that, your house is the physical construct in which you live. Whether you rent a place, whether you, so to speak, own the place, you're paying land taxes only, or you live in a mobile home, it does not matter. That's your house. Okay. The home is the feeling inside it. Now, I am not against material stuff. As a matter of fact, I'll get to what I'm doing with that. But I was looking at the people around me that carried themselves as though they really had it all together. That was the way they portrayed it. Okay. And honestly, that is an excellent way. Because by carrying yourself as though you've got it all together, there's an old saying that goes, fake it till you make it. And in a lot of ways that applies. But you've got to keep things in perspective. What other people think of you is not the relevant concern. Where I ran into the problem as a kid was believing myself to be less value than other people. And it took my getting mad to realize that's not the case. Well, by getting mad, I wrote that letter to the people involved that really required it. In my eyes, that I required telling them because it was my shortfall. And I sheared off a lot of contact. And then I've spent the last month really going through my head, was that the right move to just shear it off? And the answer is, in all fairness, in my eyes, no. But it was a necessary step. Okay. With that put in place, I managed to do, because of things shifting gears, and the way they shifted gears was 4 words. I am worth it. Now, here's the funny part. I've got that sign in my apartment, in multiple places. I've got those 4 words, the 4 most powerful words in any language I've ever heard. Okay, regarding self-esteem, self-worth, self-motivation, okay, self-improvement. Those 4 words work beautifully. Up until a couple of months back, I literally had that in my office and up front on my fridge. And I strongly recommend you do the same thing. Okay, the change that happened about a month ago, okay, right after I put that letter out. Either right after or right before. I'm honestly not certain which, but it was within a couple of days of each other. I took that same sign. I am worth it. I wrote it on my front door. The entranceway, the interlock between my own life and the world at large. Okay. And through that, plus this neat little thing here. Okay. This sign. I have legally acquired a minimum of $3,500 by April 30th, 2022 at 1 minute to midnight. This one is the same thing, but this has to do with business. We'll get to that at another time. Okay, but it's the same idea regarding how much your finances are, how much your business is doing. Take your business name and replace it here. Okay, this here is actually the short version of Inner Voice Enterprises has legally generated a minimum of $600 by April 30th, 2022 at 1 minute to midnight. Put that somewhere where you can see it regularly in your office, in the brain of your heart and home. Now, the home is the feel, and here's what's happened. I made that change, and this is a change I strongly recommend you make. Okay. I sent that letter off, put that sign, those 2 signs up as reminders. The net result is I attained what I was aiming at. Okay. The big picture for me was to get a certain amount of money into the bank, okay, with all bills paid. Okay, now the silly part about that is it took my getting mad to finally do it. And this month, okay, I have already done that. Okay, I was expecting it to be somewhere near the beginning of summer, probably the end of summer, to get to that point. But by looking at it and finally going, no, I have to take care of me first in order to take care of others. Now, this does not mean that I stopped helping other people. Okay, quite the contrary. What it means is I started helping me. But the holdup was this. I really looked at myself and went, because I knew I was a shambles, and I thought they were not. The rest of the people around me were not. They had a house, they owned their own property. And like I said, let's assume you've paid your building off, but you're still paying land taxes. If you're still paying land taxes, then you're renting your building. You're renting your house. It's just that simple, in my opinion. Okay, now the only people that seem to own property are the government and the churches. Okay, now the sad reality of it is we require both, but neither of them should be above everybody else. Now, don't get me wrong. The government, in all fairness, has to have a certain amount of leeway in order to take care of the issues around society. And we have to have a stable government run by people that are following their own laws, that are following karmic law. The government itself is a necessary thing, and overthrowing it, as so many people talk about, going to war because you don't agree with the way they're doing things, is a bad move. Okay, it results in disaster left, right, and center. It's done it multiple times. But the feel in your own home, in your own heart, I've reached a point where, yeah, I've got my problems. I'm not perfect. Okay, Lord knows I'm not perfect. But I've reached a point now where I can look in the mirror and go, I know exactly where I'm aiming. I know I can get to what I'm aiming for. Okay. But it took getting mad to stop letting myself feel less because they were in trouble. Now, I still help people that are in trouble, don't get me wrong. But the moment somebody starts making you feel like puts you in a position where you let yourself feel that their well-being is more important than yours, it becomes a problem. Okay. Now, I've done without a lot of things. Okay. I've reached a point now where I literally am able to start picking up the things I desire to have instead of just settling for secondhand. Okay. And the home itself, what it looks like on the outside, that is the image that everybody else sees. What your car looks like. Let's say you've got an old beater like I've got. My vehicle is the 2003. Okay, it still works. But you compare a 2003 vehicle to a state-of-the-art modern vehicle. Okay, now I have no idea what mine is worth. I know what I paid for it. Okay, so as far as I recall, I paid $3,000 for the thing, maybe only $2,500. But regardless of what you paid for your vehicle, okay, the vehicle is the image that other people see. Okay, now it can be an absolute immaculate vehicle. Maybe you spent the $60,000 I've seen put as price tags on some vehicles. Maybe you spent that much. But the bottom line is there's about 16 square inches of rubber that determine whether your vehicle goes anywhere. Regardless of the vehicle, as long as it's got four tires. Okay, you got about 16 inches, and I might be off a little on the size, but the implications are pretty cut and dry. It does not matter how much money you spend on a vehicle, how much you spend on the house. It's what it feels like to you that matters. What you wear, okay, is what matters. Okay, what you feel about what you wear, not what anybody else does. Okay, now with that in mind, I am going to be upgrading my wardrobe to what I feel is good. And that's just the way that's going to be. What I'm wearing right now is because, like, this is a brand new shirt, the first one I've bought in years. But because I am now at a state where I can actually, in my head, in my heart, I can go, this is what I'm aiming for. That's the point you have to get to. That is the marker point to indicate you turned that corner and are now ready to embrace yourself, embrace your worth. Okay. The reality of it is this. Okay. Now, it's what things feel like to you. You cannot control the way other people behave. Okay, you cannot control the way they're going to respond to you. At least not in all likelihood. I've known some people that can. I've done it myself, where I physically overrode somebody in a mental capacity and got them to do what I desired them to do because it was necessary. And in that case, what I did was I simply made the person turn in mid-stride so they could see me so I could wave them down. Okay, that's another story unto itself. But when you get to the point that you can look in the mirror and go, I know what I'm aiming at. That's my focal point. This is what I'm doing, regardless of what anybody else has to say about it. It took my getting mad enough to finally look in the mirror and go, this has not been a lifetime of people shunning me or pushing me away, or them trying to figure out how to get me to fit in. This has been a battle with myself, and it is likely a battle with yourself of trying to figure out how to accept yourself as is. Okay, that's the critical factor here. Okay, I reached a point that I'm now at a state where I can look in the mirror and I can go, here's what my finances are looking like, regardless of what I've loaned other people. Okay, this is what I'm looking at, and this is what I am going to attain. Because of that, I'm now starting to upgrade my stuff. Now, you'll notice I've got that wood shelf on the filing cabinet behind me. That's because I did turn around and go out and buy a printer that I could actually afford. Now, I didn't get one with all the bells and whistles. I got the one that I required for my work. Okay. But I've reached a point, and this is the point that we're aiming at getting you to. Okay. And I've got to work out, I figured it out for the live streams that I now do on Saturday morning from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific, Sunday evening from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific, and the first day, and I also, of course, am on Spaced Out Radio on the first Friday of every night of every month from 9 p.m. So, yeah, from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific. Okay, these are just the way that my world is going, but I've reached a point now where I can look in the mirror and go, this is what I'm aiming for. And that's the point I desire to help you get to. Okay, I did it on my own. It took me 58 years. I'm certainly hoping, actually, I didn't do it on my own, but I did it. I had to figure it out and let it get to here. I'm hoping to help you get to here. That's my intention, where you can look in the mirror and go, this is what I desire. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to let you go. I'll be back again tomorrow. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.